Bonus Comic Club, covering Heartstopper Volume 3 by Alice Oseman. Content/trigger warnings. Content involving and referencing homophobia and homophobic slurs, bullying, eating disorders, self-harm, and sexual assault. Alice Oseman, she/they, is an award-winning author, illustrator, and screenwriter from Kent, England. She has written 4 young adult contemporary novels: Solitaire, Radio Silence, I Was Born for This, and Loveless. She is the creator of the LGBTQIA+ young adult romance webcomic Heartstopper. Originally a webcomic on Tumblr and Tapas, Heartstopper is also published in physical form by Hatchet Children's Group. Alice's first novel, Solitaire, was published when they were 19. Now set a year after the beginning of the first Heartstopper, the central protagonist of Solitaire is Tori Spring, with Nick and Charlie, teenage boys at a British grammar school who are in love as minor secondary characters. Their dynamic in this book was where Oseman's desire to tell their story began. Alice wanted to know how they reached the point they're at in Solitaire, where they'd go from there. Oseman spent countless hours lost and in love with the story of Nick and Charlie, bringing Oseman peace in a way even writing their novels couldn't match. Each volume of Heartstopper navigates the ups and downs of first love, friendships, coming out, and mental health, beautifully framed by a warm cast of supporting characters. Since Hatchet Children's Group published Heartstopper Volume 1 and 2 in 2019, they have published a further 3 volumes, a yearbook, 2 novellas, and a colouring book. A final volume of Heartstopper, Volume 6, is set to release in early July 2026. The Heartstopper series has inspired an outpouring of love since it was first published in 2019, with more than 1 million print copies sold worldwide, sold-out nationwide book tours, and a live-action Netflix adaptation of Heartstopper, which after 3 seasons on Netflix is scheduled to wrap up with a movie that is currently in post-production and set for release in 2026. Oseman is the writer, creator, and executive producer for the live-action adaptation of Heartstopper. Previously in Heartstopper Volume 1, Charlie, who attends Truman Grammar School 10 months after having been outed by people to the school, breaks off a toxic dynamic with a guy called Ben, who recurringly makes out with Charlie, but only on Ben's terms, on the down low. Charlie Spring is allocated to a seat in homeroom or house support group next to Nick Nelson from the year above him. They exchange an iconic duo of highs, loaded with possibility. When Ben corners and grabs Charlie for an explanation regarding the breakup text, Nick intercedes, scaring off Ben and inviting Charlie to join the rugby team. Another antagonistic encounter initiated by Ben results in Charlie speaking up for himself, stating how their secret makeouts were responsible for a lot of negative emotions that Charlie felt. Ben, happy to have upset Charlie, tries to force himself on Charlie, which Nick, in timely fashion, intervenes and pushes apart. After Ben leaves, Charlie apologizes for a situation in which he was the victim and had no control. Sorry, almost being a catchphrase for Charlie. After Charlie, Nick, and Nick's dog Nellie hang out, Sarah Nelson, Nick's mum, notes that Charlie is different from Nick's other friends and that Nick seems more themselves around Charlie. Charlie arrives home, telling his sister Tori that he's fallen for a straight boy. The following Saturday, Nick hangs out at Charlie's house, taking an interest in Charlie's hobbies and interacting with Charlie's family. Throughout the day, Nick has several moments where he feels something, even being tempted to hold Charlie's hand after he falls asleep while they watch a movie and lingering longer than expected during a hug between friends. After Charlie leaves, Nick types into a search engine, "I like girls, but now I like a boy," but can't bring himself to hit enter, internally in emotional turmoil, falling asleep in tears. Nick and Charlie hang out every day during Easter holidays. Charlie starting to hopefully suspect that Nick likes him from a multitude of signs, but Charlie's bestie, Tow's, done some digging and heard that Charlie has a long-term crush on a girl called Tara Jones from a neighboring school. The other players on the rugby team have noticed that Nick is abnormally affectionate towards Charlie. Nick asks Charlie to go to a massive party with him. Tara Jones, Nick's supposed crush of 2 years that Nick kissed 3 years ago, is in attendance, and Harry, the party host, encourages Nick to get with Tara. Tara reveals she has a girlfriend to Nick. Nick calls Harry out for homophobic comments made about Charlie, and Charlie, having wandered off, brushes off Ben, who's also in attendance. Charlie and Nick reunite in quite a room. Charlie apologizes for wandering off. Nick explains he hasn't had a crush on Tara in years, and that he might go out with somebody who isn't a girl. After much cute banter, Nick and Charlie snog multiple times. Hearing people in the distance, the closeted Nick leaves Charlie alone. Charlie starts apologizing profusely to an empty room, while Charlie's inner darkness deepens, thoughts crashing around him. Previously in Heartstopper Volume 2. The morning after the party, a soaked Nick Nelson clarifies with a kiss that he was as interested in kissing as Charlie was at the party. Nick just had a freak out, a full-on gay crisis. By the end of Volume 2, Nick figures out that he is bisexual and comes out to his mum, who, while not fully sure, suspected Charlie wasn't like Nick's other friends. Sarah is loving and supportive, and both Nick and Charlie openly declare to the other that they like each other and are officially boyfriends. Charlie invited Nick to his 15th birthday party, where Nick hangs with Charlie's friends, Tao, who's very forthright, Arled, who's shy and nice, and Elle, who moved to the all-girls school the previous year and used to have geography class with Nick. Tao and Elle like each other but haven't confessed their feelings yet. Helping Nick on his journey was Tara and Darcy, the first two people Nick tells that he's dating Charlie. Tara mentions when Tara and her girlfriend Darcy Olsen first told their friends they started dating, some of their friends were surprised, but a couple of them remarked they'd known for ages. They tell Nick not to come out before he's ready. The two, Nick and Charlie, are caught making out by Charlie's sister Tori, who simply says, "Well done," with a smirk. Nick has a bit of a panic when another person knowing, and Charlie reassures Nick it's okay and normal to not want everybody to know at once. Nick, Charlie, and Nick's friends, plus Harry, go to a horror movie. Harry says homophobic things, and after Charlie has left, things escalate to slurs, with Nick punching Harry and Harry punching Nick back. After the events of that evening, Nick tells Charlie he's dumping all his friends, which is showing some dangerous signs of codependency, especially when Charlie points out that some of them are nice, like Sai, Christian, and sometimes Omar. Nick admits he doesn't think he has many good friends apart from Charlie. Charlie says he thinks Charlie's friends want to adopt Nick into their friendship circle, and Nick is ecstatic that they liked him. Nick and Charlie have a beach date with a healthy dose of making out in photo booths. Nick wants to come out and doesn't want to pretend he and Charlie are just friends anymore. He wants to tell the people he cares about and wants Charlie to tell the people he cares about too. Heartstopper Volume 3. Section 4. Out. Charlie Spring lets his parents, Jane and Julio Spring, know that he's dating Nick Nelson. His parents are surprised because of how jockish Nick is. Charlie quick to clarify that means nothing. Anybody can be gay or bisexual in Nick's case, regardless of how one behaves, or their preferred hobbies. Charlie's parents are on board, but stick new rules in place that ban sleepovers with Nick now. A mix of exams and study leave mean Nick and Charlie mostly text each other over the next couple of weeks. Nick runs into his old friends Sai, Christian, and Otis, who apologize for not stopping Harry and telling him to back off at the horror movie night. They know they should have been better when Harry was picking on Charlie, but promises they'll be better friends from now on, and they think Charlie's a nice guy and don't want Charlie to think they're like Harry. They still want to be friends if Nick wants them to be. Nick accepts their apology. Christian refers to Nick and Charlie as really good mates, and Nick can't bring himself to correct them. After Nick leaves, the other boys chastise Christian because they know that Charlie and Nick are an item, and they're okay with that, but are waiting to be told by Nick himself. A week later, and Nick admits he couldn't come out to the football guys, and Charlie admits in an offhand joke that mental health-wise, he's feeling a bit fragile, and Nick reassures Charlie with snogging, and before being interrupted by Coach Singh, who, after an initial look of shock, tells them to hurry it up, she needs to lock up soon. Coach Singh, in a meeting after, tells Nick Nelson he's the new rugby captain starting in September, and also advises Nick to find somewhere more discreet to make out with his boyfriend. Coach Singh is glad Charlie settled into the team and has kept an eye on him, knowing he's been a target for bullying in the past. Coach Singh says if any of the other boys say anything spiteful to Nick or Charlie, that Nick should go to her, and she'll sort them out. Coach Singh met her wife in university sports in the 90s. While things have improved, she knows that it can be what it can be like to get flack from others for being in a queer, non-heteronormative relationship. Nick doesn't tell Charlie about the meeting, recalling how Charlie mentioned any more stress and he's been mentally done. Nick arrives home to discover his brother is home from university. The next morning in home group, Nick tells Charlie about his bro being home and being bleh in personality. Charlie asks Nick if, at the Paris trip meeting that night, they can tell Charlie's friends. The following night at the Paris trip meeting, Nick and Charlie notice Elle and Tao acting strange towards each other, the two attracted to one another, but still having not kissed. Mr. Ajayi and Mr. Youssef Farouk are announced as the Paris trip teacher supervisors that year, and announced rooms will be shared by groups of 4. No intermingling between opposite genders, as it's not appropriate for couples to be sharing rooms, something that Darcy, Tara, Nick and Charlie are all fine with, surprisingly. In a quiet moment, Nick and Charlie let Arled know they're dating, which Arled already suspected, as does Elle, according to Arled. Arled advises not to tell Tao, though, as Arled suspects Tao might have been the reason Charlie got outed the previous year by accident, with Tao being too loud in a public corridor about being happy Charlie told his friends about being gay. Charlie is a little shell-shocked by this information. During a later conversation between Nick and Charlie, Charlie says he isn't mad at Tao, it's not his fault, and Charlie knows Tao would have never outed Charlie deliberately. Charlie talks about how at the time of being outed there were no other gay kids at school, so it was the most exciting news of the week. People thought Charlie was either a novelty or homophobic, calling Charlie disgusting to his face. Charlie started to believe what the bullies were saying and started to really hate himself to the point of self-harming. When Nick asks Charlie if he still does, Charlie responds, hardly ever. Nick gets Charlie to promise, if Charlie ever feels that bad again, to tell Nick. Nick goes to make some food and tea, though Charlie refuses the offer of food. When Nick returns for the tea, Nick's brother David is chatting to Charlie. David quickly gets homophobic and blatantly says typical bi-erasure rhetoric, having seen photos in Nick's room of Nick and Charlie kissing. Yelling escalates between Nick and David until David walks away. Charlie asks if he should leave, and Nick says yes, not wanting David to pick on Charlie too, all while a heated argument is going on between Nick's mum, Sarah, and David in a nearby room. When Charlie tries to shoulder the blame for David's reaction later that night via text, Nick is quick to correct Charlie that it is not Charlie's fault and that coming out is difficult and complicated. And while Nick's first coming out to his mum was easy, not every coming out after was going to be, and he and Charlie will have to come out many more times to many more people as time goes on. End of the day, Nick wants people to know that Charlie and he are dating. Charlie and Aled have a conversation with Tao out of earshot, Charlie needing to tell Tao about dating Nick. Aled wonders if he was sort of projecting because Aled has a friend called Daniel he's known since he was little that's becoming something more than a friendship but doesn't want or need to tell anybody about it for the time being because right now it's just their thing. Aled advises that Nick and Charlie need to stop worrying about the feelings of others. It was difficult for Charlie because he was outed and didn't have any control, but this time Charlie does. There's this idea that if you're not straight, you have to tell all your family and friends immediately, like it's owed to them, but you don't. You don't have to do anything until you're ready. It's not about Tao right now. Charlie, Nick, and the rest head to Paris, including they unpleasantly discover Harry via the underwater tunnel. After Charlie and Nick being allocated to separate beds at the accommodation, Nick notices Charlie barely touching his food, a recurring pattern, and Nick is starting to become concerned. In day 2 of Paris, Tao's pining for Elle escalates, leading to Tao and Elle visiting the Musée de Montmartre alone as they both like art history, including the likes of Renoir, while the others wander the streets of Paris. We're introduced to Sahar, part of Darcy, Tara, and Elle's group of 4 roommates for the trip. Nick notices Charlie barely touching his lunch, which Nick brings to Aled's attention, who hasn't noticed Charlie's habit to barely eat meals and not snack. We learn Nick's dad is French when he breaks out fluent French ordering ice cream. Charlie and Tara talk about getting over the fear of people knowing they're together. Tara admits it took time, eventually getting more comfortable being them. So whatever people said or thought about Tara and Darcy, they knew who they were and loved themselves anyway. In the end, they didn't tell people besides their closest friends. They just stopped hiding anything and changed their relationship status online. Charlie doesn't want Nick to be bullied like Charlie was and doesn't want Nick to feel like he needs to be out just because Charlie's out. Tara says they both want to be out as a couple, so maybe Charlie should just let it happen. It doesn't have to be a big dramatic announcement. Just be them. And if it goes badly, they can deal with it together. That night, Nick talks to Tao, and Tao talks about how things were difficult for Elle when she came out as trans. Tao loves that she's enjoying herself with her new friends at a new school. The last thing he wants is to throw a curveball that messes up their friendship. Nick asks what does Elle want, and sometimes it's worth taking the risk. Tao can't see why Elle would ever be interested in somebody like him. The night ends with a covert necking session between Nick and Charlie, leaving Charlie with a hickey on his neck the following morning. On top of the Eiffel Tower, when some bros give Charlie flack for the hickey, it's actually Harry who tries to stick up for Nick and Charlie a little. Charlie tells Tao that he's dating Nick. When Tao realizes all their other friends have known for ages, Charlie discloses he was scared Tao might accidentally tell people, which is why he hadn't told Tao sooner. The convo ends with Tao saying he's loud and says stupid things, that he would have messed it up somehow, and that he's a terrible friend, which was not what Charlie intended. After Tao departs, Charlie starts tearing up and Nick consoles Charlie. On Paris Day 4, Charlie's eating issues lead him to not have breakfast, though Nick thoughtfully tucks a croissant as a snack away for later. The gang go to explore the Louvre, where Tao and Elle finally kiss, and Charlie faints from a combo of not eating and the heat of the building. Nick finally talks to Charlie about his not eating this past week, and Charlie opens up about his difficulties with food. Nick tells Charlie that he knows Charlie isn't fragile or broken or anything like that, but does want to know if Charlie is having a bad day, or if he wants to find somewhere quiet to eat, just the two of them. Nick's reassurances reassure Charlie enough that he eats the croissant that Nick prepared earlier. The duo go to explore the Louvre some more. Charlie learns Nick is fluent in French, making Charlie hot under the collar. Nick discloses that not being able to meet his dad, who is in Paris as well, to tell him about Charlie, has been stressing Nick out. The two promise to tell each other how they're feeling more. On the bus, Tao and Charlie reconcile. Tao reveals that he and Elle kissed to the group. On Paris Night 5, Mr. Farouk and Mr. Ajayi catch Nick and Charlie hanging near the vending machine after curfew. Mr. Farouk is shocked to learn from Mr. Ajayi after the teens leave that Nick and Charlie are dating. Mr. Ajayi recalls being like that at their age. Mr. Farouk discloses that when you don't come to terms with your sexuality until after your teen years, you tend to miss out on all those beautiful gay teenage experiences. Mr. Ajayi does the math, realizes that Mr. Farouk has only come to terms with his sexuality in the last year. Mr. Ajayi doesn't think there's an age limit on youthful moments of discovery. Mr. Farouk jokingly questions if Mr. Ajayi is flirting with him, to which Mr. Ajayi says, "Maybe." On Paris Day 6, the final day, full day in Paris, Tara celebrates her 16th birthday and is given permission by the teachers to have a little party in their rooms tonight, as long as they're safe and keep the noise down. Charlie borrows Nick's hoodie, Charlie having borrowed 3 other hoodies of Nick's in the past. At the party, Charlie walks into the bathroom to discover Elle and Tao making out. Harry tries to crash the party and apologize for the homophobic stuff he said at the cinema and promises to not say stuff like that anymore. Charlie's glad Harry's realized the error of his ways, but it's not Charlie's job to forgive or say well done for that. People like Harry made Charlie's life hell the year he was outed. Charlie congratulates Harry on his realization that gay people have actual feelings, then shuts the door to the party in his face, and his friends cheer for Charlie. A game of truth and dare later, Nick and Charlie come to the consensus that it's okay to tell the people in the room that Nick and Charlie are officially dating, and Nick is the causer of the hickey. Darcy gets food poisoning and is reassured by Tara that she didn't ruin Tara's birthday and that Tara still loves Darcy. The girls having left, Mr. Ajayi sighs and says he should get fresh sheets from the front desk, Darcy having vommed all over his current ones, not at all smelling like alcohol. Mr. Farouk impulsively says Mr. Ajayi could just share his bed, then has doubts until Mr. Farouk reassures him that it's not a stupid idea. The two kiss, the camera pans out, and the window slams shut, while more adult activities between the two are undertaken. Later, Nick and Charlie, alone in their room, admit they're both okay with just kissing for now, but eventually would want to do more than kissing. They're just not ready yet. Paris Day 7 ends with traveling back via bus to England. Nick and Charlie's secret dating officially out in the open, confirmed by a kid not at the party asking and getting confirmation that they are indeed dating. Nick and Charlie in their respective families' cars back in England Google search different things. Charlie, thinking of Nick, Googles how to tell somebody you love them. And Nick, seeing a pic of Charlie from the trip with a full untouched plate of food, Googles eating disorders as their respective cars drive off into the sunset. This is the end of the Comic Club recording. Thank you for listening.